And we are back with another one. Wait till some folks start filing in. Just to fill y'all in, we are going to be talking Pinhook today with Trey from Black Bourbon Society, among other things. Here we Oh, hey, Journeyman. Love you guys. Hello.
Hello, hello,
Oh,
hello.
my sound is giving what it's supposed to give. There we go. Okay. Damn it! I was hoping it was going to show the. Darn. I was hopeful. Dang. I need
What
to get
is
like a.
up, Miss
I need to get
B?
some sort of like pedestal for when I'm doing IG lives, like
It is hard. It
just to
is hard to have
elevate
the
the shit.
bottle like at the right height for sure.
There's some art to that. Anything I can hoist this up on? No,
I can,
I'm
I
gonna
can,
work on that
I
by
can
my
make something
next
work
live.
real quick.
That is hilarious. Well, hi Trey, how are you, sir?
I'm so good. How are you?
I'm good. About time you done something.
I don't know. I was thinking about this the other day. I was like, wait, how is this the first? How are we just now making this happen? This is ridiculous.
As many times as we have virtually crossed paths,
For
this
sure, for sure.
happen.
Well, this will be exciting first, and hopefully, well, definitely not the last. This will be a very
Yes,
exciting first.
for sure, for sure. Hello, everyone that is just filing in. Hey, guys. We are going to be talking Pinhook today. True small batch, Black
True
Bourbon
small batch.
Society edition.
Yep, yep, yep.
This bottle is going to be going out to the public today, so that's the
Yeah,
special part, y'all.
this will be one of the first releases that we've done that are available to the general public
That's
beyond
what I was going to
this
ask.
record.
Y'all don't
Yeah.
really release stuff to the public, right? It's like members only type of thing.
We try to take care of the people that support the organization consistently. There's been a couple, like one or two other releases, specifically with Maker's Mark, that will end up in a retail store, so non-members will have an opportunity to buy them.
Mm-hmm.
But this will be the first one that we've done. Actually, this is a couple of firsts. This is the first one we've done with Seelbachs, first
Mm-hmm.
release we've ever done with you guys.
Mm-hmm.
And this will be the first one that'll be available online to whiskey lovers around the country.
Nice. Is there a specific reason behind why you haven't done it before? Like, is it
Yeah, so we've got over 30,000 people in our group.
okay?
And so it's already hard enough to take care of them,
Yeah.
like within them, right? And so we try to give, again, the folks that support
Yeah, give them first dibs.
or private selection. Um, we
Mm-hmm.
we always create programming around them. So these same people that have participated in that programming, whether in live, in person or virtual, we want them to have an opportunity to get the product that came out of that experience. And so
Yeah.
it's hard to just put it in one location or whatever have you and let that happen. So a couple different reasons, but that's a couple of the main ones.
Who typically? So, do members actually join in and are part of you guys' picks and blends and that type of thing? Is
So,
it
so the sensory panel for BBS is threefold, and every now and then we'll pull people in. So it's
okay?
Samara, her husband Armand, and myself, mostly for consistency's sake, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which we want to approach this from a specific way every time.
Yeah.
But it is not uncommon for us to pull in either local members, local ambassadors, etc., to
Mm-hmm.
join in on an experience. We're going to try to do that a little bit more as we blossom the single barrel program. So we don't do a lot of single barrels for a number of reasons. We don't want to get consumed in the identity of your traditional bourbon group that's just out here buying barrels.
Yeah.
And we always want to make whatever consumable that we put to market, we wanted to attach back to the mission of the organization, and that's advocate and build community and education and experience around around the product for Black and brown people in the space. And so that's
Mm-hmm.
we can't do that if all we're doing is barrel picks. We got to build some programming around them.
Yeah. Understandable. And so, give me the rundown from the beginning in terms of one, because your original trade is not in the alcoholic beverage space in
Oh, not at
general.
all. not at
And
all.
so,
Yeah.
how did that even come to be? And then, how did you get involved with Black Bourbon Society? Were you kind of there from the beginning? Like, give me all the things.
Two super fun stories. So I'll start with the second question first. So
Hmm.
I joined BBS in 2018. At that point, I had been in the whiskey world for a couple of years, 3 or 4 years. Just as a consumer, right? Consumer. I am a very curious person by nature, and so when I do something, I can very rarely do half-ass of it. So did I get a cut for the lie? I did not get a haircut for the lie, but the timing was impeccable, right?
It is
Fresh
a good
cut.
cut.
I appreciate it. Appreciate it.
Get it
Um,
fresh.
so I got to go.
Jack is a troll. Tell me he sure
It
did.
is. It is. Yes. You know what? That's going that now I will make sure that anytime I ever do a live, I'll have a fresh cut just for you guys. But so that could become my staple. I'll have a barber in the den, just to one up you guys even more.
It's a nice
Um,
flex.
um, but okay, so backtrack. So got into whiskey just naturally, right? I worked for Anheuser-Busch for a little while, and got burnt out on beer. Traveled around the world, helped them with some market economic stuff, and got burnt out on beer. And when you travel by yourself, you sit at a lot of bars, right? And so I'd sit at a bar instead of asking for a beer. I'd aim for, and I started off just like a lot of people with cocktails, right? Old fashioned, the traditional simple bourbon cocktails. And then fast forward through that, I wanted to taste what the spirit actually tasted like, and I fell in love with three things specifically around whiskey: the economic impact, right? I'm a numbers guy, an economist by trade. Um, the historical impact, right? This is the oldest regulated consumable in the world, in the country, excuse me.
Yeah.
Before your food, your clothing, all this other stuff, this had regulations around it, and so that was really cool to me. And then honestly, some of the chemistry of the production process excites me, right? The variables that you can create with the same ingredients. I love to cook. And I think me loving to cook is largely a byproduct of me loving to eat. And I pay attention to like how things are made and how very simple nuances in what you're making
Yeah.
can impact the final product. And that is
Same
very
here.
much so true in whiskey. So
Hmm.
and so fast forward, joined BBS in 2008. Again, I'm kind of one of those guys that just I can't just sit back or I can't half-ass anything. And so very quickly made an impact there. Befriended Samara, who founded the organization 6 years ago. So I was not around when it started.
Hmm.
Um, and one day she asked me, "Hey, like, do you want to be a part of the team?" And things have evolved and grown. And now I get the pleasure of serving as our VP of partnerships and building relationships with brands, focusing mostly on a lot of the emerging brands. Um, and so yeah, so it's been a fun journey. It's just getting started though. So
Nice. Love that.
that is so great.
Yeah, I was gonna say, yeah, this
So
one is actually really good.
so the I was saying this a little bit, but the reason we don't do a lot of barrel picks is because we have a large group and it's hard with a barrel, like even makers barrels, they only yield somewhere between 220, 240 bottles.
Hmm.
So when you have 30,000 plus people interested in the products that are attached to your brand, it's hard to say yes to everybody. And so not that we always want to be in a position to do that, but for us, it's bigger than bourbon. We create programming that can have a broader reach than just the bottle. And the bottles are add-ons. They're plus ups um, to the programming that we have.
Hmm.
And so how this bottle came to be is we started a series during the pandemic. I used to lead something called Whiskey Wednesdays, Whiskey Weekly on Wednesdays, where we highlight a different brand, and it was very very spirits focused, and it served its purpose during the pandemic, right? Kept building connection, kept bringing brands into doors, giving them interaction opportunities and access to a diverse consumer group, but um, but it was too heavily focused on the spirits, quite frankly, for what our mission is.
Hmm.
So coming out of the pandemic, as we were able to get back to our regular in-person programming, but then also keep creating those experiences, we revamped and restructured what Whiskey Weekly was, and I turned it into what's called Spirited Spotlight. And so the focus on it is less about the product and more about the D&I initiatives, the pillars of the organizations that were creating these products.
First,
How you guys
still happy. There we go.
prioritize diversity in your organization? How do you not only prioritize, but how do you continue to create opportunities of equality in your organization? They're one of the few, brands that has a female CEO, right? Which sounds crazy, right? Because it's like, why don't more brands have female CEOs? There's a number of female master blenders and tasters, but from a CEO on the business side, there are very few in the whiskey space, right?
Very
and they're
few.
one that have that. And so that's important to us. They have a diverse workforce. They are very focused in cultural experiences in terms of culinary and just bringing different people in. And so it was a really fun conversation to have. And it's eye-opening, right? Because it's easy to see a label and say, okay, well, the whiskey is this, and that means the brand is this. A lot of brands don't do a good job of showcasing the business side of their brand, the people side of their brand to consumers. And so Spirited Spotlight served as an opportunity to do that. And then the next step was we created a true small batch. So we were one of the first, and now the program's blowing up, and I love that for those guys to do a true small batch. I even have the Seelbachs true small batch, so that's kind of cool. Yeah, so we'll get to that at some point. But so this is a 3-barrel blend. The way they do the process is super cool. Did you sit in on the blend for you guys?
For the true small batch, no, that was Jay and that did that one.
Okay. Nice. So for people that don't know, Pinhook is a Kentucky straight bourbon. They also make rye. They have been contract distilling at Castle and Key since the inception of Castle and Key coming back. They were actually the first contract signed there. And so the whiskey that they have that they've made there is just over 4.5 years old, right at 5 years old, some of it. And so going into the blend is really cool. So Sean, their master blender, has created this program that's called True Small Batch, because small batch has no legal definition, right? So you've got brands that can put 1,000 barrels into a batch of whiskey and call it a small batch. You've got barrels that are truly doing 10, 15, 20 barrel batches because that's where they are in their life cycle. And that's for them a small batch, but there's no legal definition. So Sean decided, hey, look, let's make a true small batch. It's not 2 barrels, it's now 3 barrels. And so there are a number of barrels that we put in front of you. I think we did 6 samples in front of us, and we create 3-barrel combinations. There are a lot of potential combinations that you could come up with.
Yeah.
But typically what you do is you go through and you figure out, okay, here's the predominant profile of this, and this, like each one. And you start blending and you go and figure it out. And so it's a really fun process. I think it's very unique for the market, right? Not a lot of people, picking a single barrel is becoming more common, right? A lot of people are getting involved in that, private groups, individuals, restaurants, retailers, etc. Blending, I think, takes it to another level because it gives you 2 things, especially for a group of our size. It gives you the opportunity to hone in on like what your preferences and your flavor profile. And then it gives you a much larger yield, right? So when you have a large group of folks that you want to support, having 600 bottles versus 200 bottles goes a lot further. So, so yeah. What do you think about this on the nose? It's kind of light on the nose, kind of simple.
It's very light on the nose, and it's like, ooh, what is that? Something desserty that I'm getting.
So for me, it's very, very simple, like pastry-like. Like very flaky. Not necessarily a croissant, but like think of like baklava without the filling, right?
That's so funny, baklava. I wouldn't have said that one by name, but I knew it was giving me something dessert-like and baked.
Like light, simple, flaky pastry. A little bit of just a very little amount of butter on the nose, and so
the butter's definitely there.
And then somebody asked me, so I did NC Rum Crew. I think that's Lance. I did get to help blend this. So myself and Samara Davis, our CEO, blended this in Atlanta earlier over the summer. I want to say it was either June or July.
Did you guys go to New Orleans to do this?
So we did this one in Atlanta because we had some other business going on. And so Sean actually came to Atlanta. It was really cool. So Sean came to Atlanta. We knocked out the blend that morning. And then Sean and I are kindred spirits because we're both foodies. So he was doing a market visit. We did the blend that morning. And then we bounced from store to store to store. And it seems like we ate like 7 times that day. Because in between stores of like checking in, see how bottles looked. We'd hit up a spot. Like there's this one liquor store that has a barbecue, like a literally hole in the wall barbecue spot next door to it. we thought it looked closed, and then people kept driving around it. We didn't realize they had a drive-through, but nobody was inside of it. So we go in, and it was like a chopped barbecue sandwich for like $2, like $2.50 or something like that. I was like, yeah, we'll do that. And so we had a barbecue sandwich. Then we ate Greek food. Then we went to. I think we had another meal. Then we went to dinner after lunch. All this was after lunch.
That's my type of day.
It was a lot of alcohol and food, and very, very good. So very light on the nose, like it's a little buttery, light.
As it sits longer, because I've had it sitting for at least like 15 minutes now. I started to get pepper. I think more white pepper.
I was gonna say super again, white pepper, nice and easy. And that's what I appreciate, right? Especially when you have, for the price point of this bottle, it's right at like $65, and we'll talk about the pricing component here in a minute. You get a lot of people that will see the proof on this, 116.7 proof, and they think they'll stick their nose in a glass and get all ethanol.
Yeah.
And then it starts to trigger premeditated expectations.
Mm-hmm.
And so you'll stick your nose in, you'll see this, and you're like, oh man, that's going to burn. Then you'll stick your nose in, it's like, oh, that doesn't smell like 116 proof.
No, not at all.
And so it'll encourage you to, well, let me give it a try, right? Now, I will say, when you give it a try,
that proof is there.
It's got some legs to it, right?
That proof is there.
it's running around all over, which I think is another cool thing. The proof doesn't come off, in my opinion, as alcohol, though, right? No. It comes off as a lot of baking spice, a lot like the proof feels more like flavor, but it's a big, bold, noticeable flavor.
Definitely bold with the spice.
Yeah.
Emphasis on I want to say cinnamon and nutmeg out of the baking spices. I'm getting a lot of those particular two.
Yeah. And I'll say like
that's almost honey-like.
Yeah. So first off, quick timeout, reverse shout out. So I caught up on the last 3 episodes of Soul Palette Podcast this past on the other day, and yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. That was cool. That was cool.
Hearing people listen to Soul Palette.
Yeah, it was. So I was like, man, can I listen to this with my kid in the car? Because of the titles are very awesome, like that. But it was perfect. So I listened to Netflix. I listened to that one Monday, and then what is the title of the one where you guys did? Yes. So very, very, very,
I
very
so
cool.
much fun naming these episodes.
I can tell. I could. It was obvious. I was like, shout out to you. I was like, let me make sure my search history isn't searchable because I can't go back and look for some of this. Like something else might show up.
Make it fun. Everyone should at least be 18 and up listening to this podcast. Sure. So like, look.
For sure. Look, we're all grown.
Because I have a potty mouth and I don't even try to hide it. So
Same.
I'm in an adult industry.
For sure.
Don't know what to tell you.
Yeah, for sure. We
have fun.
And I was like, man, let me catch up on this one for her, and I could back.
I appreciate you listening.
Thank you. Of course. Got to support your people, man.
We appreciate everyone that tunes in to Soul Palette because it is definitely our baby.
It seems like a lot of fun.
It's a lot of fun. It's a lot of work, but it's a lot of fun.
If I'm ever in DC, I'm going to
things you talked about. One, I'm curious because you said one of the things that drew you into bourbon was the economic impact of it. Like, what do you mean by that? Explain that.
Do you know how much money Black folks spend on whiskey or on alcohol? Period.
Please tell me the numbers. I mean, I know it's a lot in general.
Yeah,
but
it's roughly $8 billion a year.
Wow,
it's how much.
Sounds about right.
Is how much Black and brown people spend on spirits a year. Now that's not all, but predominantly most of it's cognac. Most of it's brown liquor. Most of it is brown liquor. Like we don't drink a lot of gin. It's aged spirits, rum, cognac, brandy, tequila even now. Yeah, tequila now and whiskey. So not only that, but we're gonna get real cultural here for a second.
Yeah.
You guys realize this would not exist without us. Like mad props to, Fawn and Uncle Nearest for putting that particular story on the map. But that's not unique, right? Respectfully, with the exception of the success of Jack Daniel's.
Uncle Nearest is not the only individual.
Correct.
That was doing this.
There are literally. I'm gonna step on some toes. No white people were growing their own crops when slaves were around. Not to the point where they were able to create commerce off of them.
No.
Right. So Black and brown people were growing the corn. We were harvesting the corn. We were running the stills. Like these things aren't super secret, right? We just don't talk about them like a lot of other things in
Yeah,
America.
sure.
And so fast forward, like the production of this never changed. Like even if you go to a distillery now, like you see black and brown people where they're at, they're typically rolling the barrels
Yeah.
and pouring the bottles, right?
Mm-hmm.
They're still
Or
putting
bringing in the
product to market.
grain,
Oh
dealing
yeah,
with the water source, all of that. I've seen it everywhere in all aspects of it. I've been to so many distilleries at this point.
which I think is cool because for me that taught me, right? Like this product creates a lot of jobs, a lot of commerce, right? And so the economic impact of not only how much we're able to generate, but how much we then put right back into something. We're almost investing in ourselves. It's just there's a gap. There's a significant gap between the start and the finish of the product. So bringing more black and brown people along the way to get them into positions of decision making, positions of influence as it relates to just the consumer experience.
Yeah.
Because from a marketing standpoint, that's where black and brown people have missed out on. And it's getting better, right? Like I got to give credit where credit is due. There are a lot of progressive brands, and this is one thing that excites me about craft brands, is that not only is it challenging tradition, but these brands know that to be competitive, they've got to do something different.
Yeah.
And so they have to influence, they have to interact with the folks that have been underserved for years. And then because black folks, we get it, right? You have to do it in a non-performative way. You got to come in in a particular way that lets us know you want to come alongside us as a partner. You want to and allow us to.
We're just looking for another way to get our money.
It's got to be a symbiotic relationship, and so all of that, everything I just said, ties back to green, ties back to dollars, right? How I make my money, where I spend my money, influences a lot of how I get to live my life. And whiskey, quite frankly, I mean, like this is an investment. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
first of all, the whiskey den is epic. Like your whiskey den is like one of my inspo shots on my vision board for when I finally get a house with a basement.
Oh yeah.
Right now, my collection is just on all different floors of the house. Some is in cases and closets and shit because I just don't have the shelf space for everything.
But when you do, I know it's about to be epic. First off, those Seelbachs blends behind you are awesome too. I've got a couple of those. So
thank you.
I'm scoping out. See, I'm looking at you, and I'm also catching what's in the background and see what else I can do.
Yes, and that's not even all of it. Like,
oh, I know.
Yes, I'm working on a den of my own in my next house.
I love it. I can't wait. So back to this. So we'll talk about this for just another second. So another cool thing. So everything I'm saying is super relevant to not only this particular bottle, but Black Bourbon Society and spirits in general. So this bottle was cool. So we struck a partnership with Pinhook and have done a couple of different things in programming. But one of the cool things, and this is also our first release through Seelbachs.com, working with Sean and Alice, and then working with Blake and yourself as well. It was really cool because Black Bourbon Society is one of kind of three aspects associated with the group. So the overarching group is called SMG, Society Marketing Group, and so there's a full service ad agency that sits above Black Bourbon Society. So when brands are looking for PR information or access to a particular demographic, lifestyle brands, they go through SMG first.
Okay.
So Black Bourbon Society is kind of our incubated consumer group. And so we are able to facilitate programming there, learn a lot about what consumers are spending and talking about in that group, and service that group from an educational and experiential standpoint. The other aspect of the group is Diversity Distilled. So the Diversity Distilled is heavily focused on D&I professionalism. So,
and that's under the same umbrella.
Yeah, so it's really F&B.
Because I've heard of Diversity Distilled, but I'm not familiar with what exactly they do and everything. So, okay.
Perfect. I'll lay that out to you because a portion of the proceeds from each bottle goes to Diversity Distilled.
Perfect.
So above both of these organizations is called SMG, Society Marketing Group, full service ad agency. Black Bourbon Society is effectively, again, an incubator community, right? We bring folks in, we create educational and experiential experiences or opportunities. We do excursions to different whiskey-centric places or food-centric places, et cetera, et cetera. That's our Bourbon Society. And then Diversity Distilled is the professional enhancement. So when Beam or someone reaches out and they're looking for D&I training or they're looking for consumer insights, right? That typically funnels through Diversity Distilled as our nonprofit, and we go out and work with the brands. So you can almost divide it up and say diversity distilled is benefit for the brands almost exclusively. Black Bourbon Society is benefit for the consumers almost exclusively. So a lot of the stuff that diversity still doesn't end up on social media because it's HR meetings, not necessarily behind closed doors, but internal. Hey, we're working on these opportunities. We want to bolster our recruiting for Black and brown people and minorities and things of that nature. And it's very,
a lot
very,
of behind the scenes work.
Right. It's very, very tactical, right? Like people talk about, hey, Lux Row changed Rebel Yell to Rebel. Not great. Well, one of the things they did do is reach out to BBS or to SMG, and we did not influence the decision in totality. So I will never say that. But that they were a part of the conversation. SMG, Diversity Still was a part of the conversation of how is this going to be received? Is this enough? Candidly, we didn't think it was, but we were brought in as one of many SMEs on the concept. And there's a number of folks that reach out to us about just, hey, feedback, thoughts, etc., diversity training, job placement. So when brands are looking to have more people of color in positions of leadership, we'll help them find qualified candidates and things of that nature. And so much more so on the brand and professionalism side. And then BBS is really the consumer conduit. So this is important because, again, as a nonprofit, right, that organization doesn't have a natural source of revenue without charitable donations and folks looking for ways to, give back and quite candidly get tax breaks. And so what we did with this as a partnership with both Pinhook and Seelbachs is that $10 from every bottle purchased will go to it will be donated to Diversity Distilled. So ultimately, we're looking at just over $5,000 or $6,000 in donations to Diversity Distilled when all the bottles are sold, which is a big deal because it then pays for marketing and reaching out to these brands and being able to respond to these brands and paying the folks that work on that team to go out and put Black and brown people in a better light in the spirits industry, give us a better chance to get the shine we deserve. And so there's a lot going on behind, and people see BBS, it's the face of the group organization because it's quite candidly, it's the most tangible thing that we put in the market for consumers. But diversity is still a big deal, and it's a really cool behind the scenes organization that's moving the needle for Black and brown people in the space.
Did we freeze? We froze. Oh, there we go. Okay. It froze for a second.
Oh, you froze for a second.
There we go. Okay, you're back.
Okay. So you froze for me. Maybe it was my end the whole time.
Okay, so I froze for you and you froze for me. Oh Lord. So we're just frozen. All
Okay.
right. Well,
Okay.
we're back.
All right.
But I
Welcome
heard the
back.
very bulk of what you said.
Yeah.
But that kind of leads me into a little segue into my other question that I kind of wanted to go back to was like the type of programming that BBS does for the members. Like what does that entail?
Yeah, so we do a ton of programming, right? And it scales pretty dramatically. So we have, I want to say it's somewhere in the neighborhood. I don't run our ambassador program, so please excuse me if I get this number wrong. It feels like we have somewhere between like 30 and 40 ambassadors across the country in key states.
Nice.
And so their purpose is to facilitate and build community. And so naturally we'll have different pop-up events, we'll have activations, we'll have some dinner pairings and things of that nature that are very localized and local centric that happen almost bi-monthly, right? 2 or 3 times a month. In any given market, you'll see these events pop up. And then stepping up from above that, we do a lot of virtual programming that's kind of globalized through the BBS channel, whether it's Spirited Spotlight or just during Black History Month, we have a couple of larger digital activations. And then it scales up further from there. We'll do excursions. Actually, I would probably put the brand campaigns before excursions. So brand campaigns are huge. What we do, I agree, Sonia, our ambassadors are the best, and they are all volunteers, so kudos to them. So above that, we have our brand campaigns. So for example, in February, we'll do something called Salon 7 with Jack Daniels. Paying homage to trailblazers in the Black trailblazers in the space of spirits and business and economic and historians, and then we'll do something called Black Manhattan Project with Michters. We do a summer campaign called it's with Beam Open Door, that highlights Black-owned businesses and special folks in the spirits industry over the summer, and that's a multi-city large activation. Each city gets 3 days worth of events every day. And we do a number of those different brand centric activations that we get contracted for. And above and beyond that, for BBS, like the members themselves, we do annual excursions where we've gone to New Orleans and Louisville predominantly, but there's discussions around some larger, potentially international trips in the very near future that we facilitate. Literally, it's you pay your fees, you show up, and have a great time. And we're very, very blessed, very fortunate. When we go to a lot of these places, these brands roll out the red carpet for us. I've been to a lot of these distilleries with other groups and for other purposes, whether I'm blending for them or just visiting or what have you. And it's always a good time. But when BBS shows up and, so kudos to Samara. She has fostered some really, really fantastic relationships in this space since she's been doing what she's been doing. They really do treat us like royalty. We've had Michter's rented out on a Sunday for, the bottle your own bourbon experience for all of our members. The bar upstairs kind of reserved for us, catered food, all that good stuff.
Nice.
The Heaven Hill bottle your own bourbon experience, completely rented out for us the day. They pick whatever expression you want type thing. It was, just some really fun things like that.
Yeah,
we took a group to the Bernheim distillery, which nobody goes there, right? It's not open to the public for Heaven Hill. So that's where the predominant, that's where most of Heaven Hill's whiskey is made.
Okay.
And so we took a group of, almost 50 people on a tour through that distillery that is not, Shively, so it's not open to the public. And so just some behind the scenes.
Those are
really
my favorite
cool
type of tours, when they're really not catering to the public.
It's
you get that real genuine experience where they're not like diluting it down to like the bullet points of what they feel like you'll be able to digest. Like, that's my type of thing. I love that.
For sure.
And
it's
had
not
that kind of experience at Mount Gay, and it was everything.
First off, I'm super jealous. So I'm super jealous. Let me get back. So I didn't want to bother you. I saw you're out of office, and of course I follow you, and I'm like, I don't even want to email her right now unless it's about, hey, like, can you bring me some shit back from Barbados? But I
didn't even bring myself anything back from Barbados. I was so in the moment of like just tripping out about the fact that I was in this big ass facility. Like, their property is crazy big because they bought the original like land that they were producing all the sugarcane and stuff on. So to be able to like actually go and walk through and see the fields and see the rick houses and meet the master blender, who's a Black woman. Oh yes. Well,
so I'm a little bit of a soft Foursquare fan. So it's like rum and agave and vinyl over there. But so the Whiskey Den is not just whiskey, but I'm a huge fan of rum but Barbados. I was super jealous. I'm not gonna lie. It takes quite a bit. I'm not a jealous person by nature. I was quite envious. Like, I turned notifications on for your posts and everything. So I was just trying to see what you had going on.
Hey.
I was like, all right, what else is she doing? And then I saw the fermentation thing.
I have a whole stock full of like photos and videos I haven't even I'm trying to work on a reel just for the Mount Gay part of my trip, because it was just, shout out to Maggie. She's everything. So I was very happy to finally be able to connect with her in person and get that experience. And it was great. I got to take my wife, and a friend of mine got to take his mom, and one of my friends / newest member of my staff, I got to bring her. So it was a nice educational experience for everybody.
Isn't that a fun trip where you can bring people along? Like,
oh yeah.
And some of the experiences, and I was talking about just BBS experiences, right? Like, those are super cool, right? Like Connor O'Driscoll and Bernie Lovers are the ones walking this around. Like, it's not, some part-time tour guide. It's their master distiller that's hanging out with us. And, similar to you, like, you get some really cool experiences going to places, whether it be, on your personal or with Seelbachs. And it's like, sometimes I just wish like, gosh, I wish I could have like 5 or 6 people with me to just experience this.
Just to go through
and understand why I'm so passionate about this stuff. Because
you literally took the words out of my mouth. I was going to say, I'd like people to understand why I get so obsessed and why I'm so passionate about it. And why I like intensely tasting just about every day.
Oh yeah.
And just like, oh my God, it was just so great. Watching the fermentation tanks, like, it was just,
and they were going crazy for you, apparently.
They were going crazy. I'd never seen fermentation happening real live in that. Like,
and the rum fermentation is quite a bit different than whiskey fermentation. Like, it is volatile.
To the house where they house all the molasses that comes in on the trucks and how they separate them in these quadrants and stuff, and the smell is like amazing.
You
I
probably
got to
still feel like
taste
certain things.
like the straight molasses. I got to compare the Caribbean molasses to the Barbados molasses that they're
Yeah.
growing locally. Like, it was just great. I love Maggie so much because we
Yeah.
did that like very last minute, and she definitely just made us feel so welcome, and it was great.
I love it. I love that for you.
And there's so many
Um,
Black women that are running shit over there that it just made me so like my heart was full.
Barbados is very Black. People
Very
don't
Black.
understand.
Very
Yeah.
unapologetically Black.
Yeah.
So like
In the
it was
best
just
of
a nice
ways too.
confirmation for me. Like, we've been
Correct.
doing this. Like, we're built
For
to do this.
sure.
Like,
For
there's no
sure.
reason why we can't be doing this in the US. So it
That's a
was
fact.
one of those type of trips for me.
Yeah.
When I just came back,
How long did you stay?
battery in my back. I was supposed to be staying for 5 days. Wound up staying for 4 because American Airlines is horrible. But it worked out at the
Okay.
end. It worked out
Um,
at the end. I was delayed 24 hours, but it worked out at
I
the
hope
end.
you got an all
There
expense
for
trip paid
4
there,
days
like
total.
anywhere you want to go. They better give you something.
Like, we working on that, trust. But yeah, no, we were there for 4 days total. We made it work for the time that we were there and got our money's worth. So it was a good trip. We were celebrating a friend of mine's 30th birthday, and
Heck yeah.
so we got
When was your birthday on the trip?
yeah.
Okay, I was just saying because I just turned 30 last Saturday. I was like, okay, let me figure out. We got another person on the same birthday.
Oh, you just turned 30.
On the 29th. So.
Hey, little baby. I'm only turning 32, so but
All right, come on now. Yeah, I was like,
I
I
be
was
so
like,
fast to feel like I'm older than people.
she's like, what was your birthday? Oh, I'm 6 weeks older than you. Like, come on, get out of here.
Oh, that's so
um,
sweet. You're so cute.
Stop it. Stop. Are you doing the most? All right, back to the whiskey. So, for those that are just tuning in, like, we're having a good time, and we're talking about something really cool. So, this is the latest release for Black Bourbon Society, and it's one of the first that will be released, available to the general public this afternoon on Seelbachs. So, this is a true small batch blend. It's 3 barrels that have been blended together. These barrels were just over 4 years old when we blended them. The proof is 116.7 proof. Funny story about that. I have a way of guessing proofs,
Really?
like to the decimal point. So I was within like 0.3 of correct with this one, but then so I helped blend the 7-year bourbon vertical, which is it's quite amazing. So if I don't say so to myself, I guess
I haven't cracked my ball of the 7-year open yet.
So one of the barrels, so damn close. I guess not only a blend of the proof that we created, because it's the first one in cash strength. So I guess the proof of that. But there was one particular barrel that isn't included in this blend that's going to be released soon that was way off their average proof line.
Mm-hmm.
And they had the team. I got there a little bit late. The team that went through and tasted, and like they were like, "Oh, this is a special barrel." Like, and they didn't know how low. They didn't know why it was so special. Long story short, I guessed it to the decimal point.
Wow.
And Sean was like,
"Do you have a particular process when you're guessing this? Like, is there some criteria you hit in your head that makes you like think of a certain number?"
Yeah, and I drink a lot, and I pay attention to the things I put in my mouth, right, in a lot of aspects. So, a couple different things. Pause. So viscosity.
I was trying to be mature.
This is not soul palette. We'll do a soul palette episode one day. I'm joining that. I'm cutting up on that. By the way,
you need to come to DC and do a soul palette episode.
I owe DC a trip for a couple reasons, so I'll let you know.
Okay.
But yeah, I do have a process elimination. A lot of it has to do with viscosity, which for me is more telling with proof than anything. So viscosity, I can usually taste the difference between, because I do conjurer training, so I can usually taste the difference between ethanol and spice that comes from like a yeast or chalk, right? Okay. And so there are a number of different things I try to check in my head, and then it ultimately boils down to like a little bit of luck towards the end of it. But yeah, there's definitely some things that I can taste something and with the confidence of like plus or minus three proof points, get it right.
That's really cool and nerdy. I like that. So when it comes to the viscosity aspect, like the more viscosity, is it typically lean towards a higher proof or the reverse?
It depends.
Okay.
If the whiskey's been proofed or not.
Okay.
And so when you do cask strength samples, if it's more viscous, typically it's more saturated. And if I know barrel entry proofs, just general, like it can't be over 125, can't be below 80, right? So or it's below 100, and so I'll be able to typically tell, like, okay, this is a viscous enough whiskey at 4 years old that wasn't in a 30-gallon barrel to say that it's going to be above or below 110 or 112, and then I'll start boiling into the rest of my criteria. And so yeah, it's just
we're gonna have a session where you kind of teach me the ways with this. I like that.
I would love to hang out and do sensory.
Yes, and calculate proofs and shouldn't have the formulas popping up in my head like that meme. I want that.
It's fun. It's a lot of fun. I mean, I think it's relative, right? Like, I do a lot of blind stuff, just personally, like I do. So when I hang out in the den, unless there's people here, most of the time it's like self-education experiences, right? So like, I'll come in here, I'll have 3 or 4 things poured out. My wife will pour something, or I'll just pull samples. I have a box of blind samples, and I'll just pull from it, and I'll hang out with it. And that for me is just as enjoyable sometimes as like going to get a cocktail from a bar or something like that. It's ooh, can I figure out what this is and why it is what it is and how it became what it became?
Yeah.
And if I don't get things right, I give myself some grace to just go learn more, right? Go figure out what else I could have known about it, right? So I'm on this finished whiskey kick right now. And then I'm on I'm blending, and I posted about it last night. Like, blending for me is getting exciting. I've got some things that are coming down the pipeline.
For me too. I'm having fun. I've been coming across a lot more opportunities to blend stuff lately. I'm having a lot of fun with it. I definitely am trying to like deep dive into that process for sure.
We'll chat. I may have some opportunities for you. I've got some really, really cool things coming down the pipeline that are going to blow.
Oh, I want in.
I'll shoot you a note.
I want in. Okay, cool. I'm excited about that.
So yeah. So what are the details on the release time and date? Because you own all that. I don't know what time this is getting released this afternoon.
So my best guess, because I haven't gotten a chance to fully finish updating with Blake yet, I'm gonna say 2 o'clock today. That's typically our release time. Is between 2 and 3 o'clock, just depending on how ready our emails are. Yeah. So I'm gonna say between 2 and 3 confidently. Today. I do know it'll be today, but it'll be within that hour mark.
Yeah, I guess so. Just hang out this afternoon. It'll be on the website, right?
Yeah, you'll definitely get an email, everybody. There will likely be a countdown on the app. So just keep your eyes on both sources, whichever way you guys are plugged in with us, whether it's text, email, or the app. Just keep an eye out, but I would definitely say between 2 and 3 o'clock.
And the app is dope, by the way.
Thank you. I'm so proud of that app.
You should be. It's pretty dope. Not a lot of people have solid apps, especially in the whiskey space, and so or the spirits industry period. It's a nice work there. So some details on this barrel, and then I'll shut up. So that overall, right?
I wanted to know the mash, like, of the different blends. Do you know? I'm sure you know, but do you know off the top of your head?
I'm just not sure if I'm able to disclose.
Oh, to share. Well, we already know.
I can tell you. Here's what I can tell you.
So we already know some cats on the key. We can't know the mash bills. Is it like secret recipe type thing? Because it's contract.
So what they distill at Castle and Key is not what Castle and Key puts in the market.
No, I know.
Yeah, it's 100% proprietary.
Yeah. Okay.
So, but here's what I can tell you. So all of these were distilled in the first week of August of 2018. So when we released this in October, it was just over 4 years old.
Okay.
They're from a number of different warehouses. So Warehouse E, and actually all Warehouse E, Floor 3, let me just read this. For Warehouse E, 3AA refers to Floor 3, Section A, Rick 33. There's 17 barrels in each tier of a Rick. There are 3 tiers, I being the bottom, 1 being the bottom, 3 being the top. Barrel 1065 came from the first tier, position 7. Barrel 1024 came from the first tier, position 13. And then barrel 963 came from tier 2, position 11. So all of these barrels are towards the end of a Rick. 2 of them were for the bottom tier, and 1 of them was from this first tier up. And there's 3 tiers total. So it's very relatively low, which is probably why the nose is muted. There's not a lot of ethanol from the heat cycling. And Castle and Key is just very dark and damp naturally. And so even their higher Rick barrels don't get a ton of heat.
Yeah.
But on the nose, it's, very light, flaky pastry. Not I don't get a ton of sweetness on the nose. I just get
Yeah.
nice breadiness.
It's like buttery and bready, yeah, with like there's a hint of sweet that just gives the idea that it could be a dessert, but it's not like creme brulee caramel type sweet. Like
For
there's a
sure.
lot
Yeah.
I taste a lot of stuff where I kind of get that type of vibe. Like it's definitely giving buttery baked good.
Yeah, for sure. And it's nice because it's not I feel like I must have a whiskey delivery. Typically they ring the door, they don't ring the doorbell. You guys want to see if Trey got some whiskey? Let's go. We're gonna
It's
check
the whiskey delivery to the house for me.
um it's a Seelbachs bottle. We'll see. See if this guy's still here. Oh no, it's not my Seelbachs guy. One second, I'm gonna mute myself. Uh-huh. What's up, Larry? Here, I'm on a call. Do your thing.
What, man?
All right.
Hey, Larry, how you doing, Larry?
It's my
Hi, Blair.
say what?
And I said you're on live, Larry.
Cool. He's my Terminix guy. He comes and sprays the house and
Oh, nice.
makes everything
Gotta have
bug
that
free.
guy.
Bug free for sure. We have a lot of space. We live on some land, so need
Where
it to
are you
come.
based? Are you in Atlanta? Where are you based?
I live in Charlotte. Not all black people live in Atlanta.
No, well, clearly, because I'm back and live in DC.
Correct. Or DC. I'm in Charlotte, so I'll actually be in Atlanta Friday this week, Friday through Sunday. Then Orlando, Sunday through sometime next week.
I always hear such great things about Charlotte. It's like one of my mom's favorite cities. I haven't been yet.
Come through. You'll see. I will go on my spiel, my sales pitch, but just come visit Charlotte. I lived in Chicago
And
before
especially now
Charlotte.
that I know somebody there. I always like to go
For sure.
I
And
know
you
somebody,
have a place to stay. You and the missus, y'all have a place to stay.
yeah.
Got all this extra space. There's a lot. There's free whiskey, right?
I will
I'll
be in the
cook.
whiskey den,
Same. I'll cook.
getting red in the
And,
face drunk, and that's
just crawl across the hall. There's a bedroom right there. So like,
there we go.
um, so on the palate. Sorry for the digression. So on the palate, it gets bolder and sweeter, right? For me, it's raw cinnamon, right? So not cinnamon that you put on like if you've ever had like a cinnamon stick and actually
Yep, I was
grated
just
that.
about to say cinnamon bark, yeah.
Yeah, so cinnamon bark, not the processed stuff. It's that, and then I do get some of the nutmeg in there. So just definitely baking spices, which I think plays really well to the holiday season coming up.
Yep.
And the finish isn't super aggressive, even with the bold palate, right? It doesn't burn you down with heartburn. You get a little bit of a hug, but it doesn't go crazy. And so, for $65, a charitable donation, the first true small batch to be released by BBS and with Seelbachs. It's this is a really cool bottle to have, and then Pinhook's a great brand. I really like what
Pinhook is
they're
a
doing.
great brand. Especially
I
after
really like
meeting
what they're
Sean, I like them even more.
If you don't like Pinhook after meeting Sean, you just don't like whiskey or good people or good food.
Basically.
And if you don't like those things, like really,
agreed.
You've got some other things to figure out in life anyway. So.
And if y'all want to get familiar with Sean, I also did a live with him, and it's on our page. So feel free to scroll back to some previous lives. I mean, he's great.
It's great. He'll talk about the blending process in that.
Visit.
He talks about his blending process in that, which is super cool.
Mm-hmm.
It's fun. So him and we've had a lot of conversations about blending as I'm working on some other projects, and so
yeah,
good times there. Good to know. So D, what's next? I'm gonna flip this interview and then we'll get you off. So what's next for you, girl? Like what you got going on? What's exciting for you?
Well, continuing to expand Seelbachs. Obviously, we're still we're building out our wine collection now to start Seelbachs Estate. So I'm excited about that because I love wine almost just as much as I love whiskey. Working on, in terms of me personally, just working on getting my WSET educators certification so I can actually start teaching people what I know in terms of distillation and all of that. Working on a couple of other things that I won't say publicly yet, but that's why I want to get in on some of this blending and stuff you're doing. So
I got you.
Yeah,
I mean,
irons in the fire, as they say.
As you should. Cool. I think I really like Seelbachs, so I get to work with a lot of different distributors, both online and I think what you guys are doing is pretty epic. It's pretty epic. Yeah.
Thank you. I appreciate that. We work quite hard. Especially
I'm
to
aware.
only just started in 2018. I'm definitely proud of where we're at and where we're projected to go. So
Yeah,
uh, I'm here for the ride.
I love it. I love it. Right on. Well, look, I won't keep you any longer because it's the lunch hour, and I've taken literally almost a full hour of your time. Thank you
Yeah,
so much for hopping on. So much
yeah,
short notice coming
great
back from
combo.
a vacation that I'm super jealous about. Uh, you guys keep an eye out for on Seelbachs later this afternoon for this
Yes.
release. Again, it's $65 plus shipping. $10 of that between the contributions from the BBS side, the Seelbach side, and the Pinhook side will go to Diversity Distilled, and help us continue to push our mission forward. Shout out to Dee, all the things she's doing with Seelbachs, taking over the world. I told Blake you better watch out where he's going to have to sell you the company or give you the company. So
Well, he may very well one day. Who
I,
knows?
I
I'm
mm-hmm.
not leaving anything off the table.
I
So
heard that. I heard that. As you should. So kudos to you. Kudos to everything you guys are doing. Thanks for the platform. Thanks for being a great partner for us to distribute this. Excited for the other things that we can do together. And so,
yeah, for sure. Looking forward to
yeah,
it. Thanks
look
for
forward to the
joining
next
me,
step
good
here.
sir. Gotta do a good. We gotta do a cheers now. You
We got to
already
do
know.
it. Cheers. I'm
It's
gonna
not. It's not right if
I'm
we don't end it with a cheers. Oh,
go to
you're
the
doing a
second.
seven. I gotta crack open my 7 year. I've been waiting. There's been so many bottles that just come into the warehouse that I just don't know where to start
Is
with
it
some.
is it in the room that you're in right now?
No, I took it home to get tasting notes on it and just didn't open it.
Okay. Okay. All right. Well.
So, but I have my two small batch poured. So
Okay.
we're
All
still
right.
we're still in the right space. Okay,
I love it.
cheers. Until the
Cheers to
next
you
convo, y'all.
for
Thank you
sure.
for joining us. And yes, keep an eye out between 2 and 3 o'clock today. You'll be able to get your hands on this. So yeah. Bye
Awesome.
everybody.
Thank you, CD.
See ya.